went to go visit Adessia, and Naven's company is this big factory that makes food-grade products. All the same products, all the same machines, all the same vibes, all the same feel as the Budweiser brewery that I worked in, except this one, all of their machines are filling up little sachets, little individual, ready-to-eat, little plastic bags that you peel open, kind of like a Go-Gurt, but smaller, full of, what's that?
So the MREs?
Yeah, so MREs, so ready-to-eat meals. So what they're made from is peanut paste, whey, which is like milk protein, some sugar, and some nutrients. And these little packets get sent out to over 50 countries around the world, and they're used to bring kids back from literally from like the brink of death, like real severe malnutrition. And within 14 days of using this product, of eating this peanut paste, which is very high in fat, nutrients, good fibers, sugar, so that gets them energetic, you can bring a kid back from really the brink of death and like severe malnutrition, you were there, to a child that's ready to actually, I mean, they're not, in some ways they're cured, but they're ready to start actually dealing with some of the other underlying symptoms that they have. And so this is like this unbelievable company in Rhode Island that not a lot of people know about, who's making thousands and thousands and thousands of units of this stuff a day and sending it out to countries. And if you think about it, for every 14 of them that she's making, which roll off of the production line every 7 seconds, I'm making that number up, but literally 14, I mean, it's just so fast, you just see another life get saved, and then another life get saved, and another life get saved. It's really amazing. And so I brought that thing up about me working in the brewery because I wasn't saving any lives. If anything, I was probably hurting more lives, making a bunch of Budweiser and Bud Light. And then on the other side of it, you can see this really incredible technology be used for good. And so a group of us went down. Anybody else in this room? I don't think so. Yeah, so Layla was there. But a group of us went down to see the facility. And so then a few more students will have actually the opportunity to meet her tomorrow night as we honor her. It's really kind of a big deal to think about. You've got the head of consumer value store, CVS. I mean, this is one of the biggest businesses going. And then you've got sort of this really famed professor over at Brown who really helps people with entrepreneurship. Then you've got Carolyn Rafaelian from Alex and Ani, who's built a multi-billion-dollar company. And then you've got this multi-million-dollar company. All these things are right here in Rhode Island. I mean, right here in Rhode Island, and we're honoring these people. And so they're here. So like the big names come to the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. They're coming here to get awarded regarding their stuff in entrepreneurship. So it's a big deal. There's lots of great opportunities to meet people like this. And more importantly than just meet them, get connected to them and then find a way to either intern there or sell your products in CVS or whatever it is. So that's pretty exciting. And so we have a lot of these people come through these doors, and tomorrow night's going to be a big one.
And we can continue to ask you to be part of that. So there's 2 people in our class, Layla and Gabriel, that'll be part of that tomorrow night. We'll continue to ask all of you to be part of different things to give you those opportunities and exposure to people. We have 15 students that'll be here in total. So another 13 E360 alumni, kids that have taken this course. So we're always getting you in front of the right people, or trying to make things happen.
I don't know if I should do this, but I'm going to do it anyhow. Does anybody know what this word is other than Nick and Jody? And, I forgot, I won't break the screen. We don't have a film crew in here. Does anybody know what this word is? Nepotism. It's when you give like privilege to like brothers and sisters and people within your family, right? And so you might be scratching your head going, wait a second, why is Layla and Gabriel going? Layla has been interning here for a while, so we know Layla. And Gabriel Malate took E360 and she's selling. And so, Malate's your sister. And so Malate was coming to the marketplace and we said, hey, can you bring your brother? It will be a good opportunity. So that's a little bit of nepotism right here in action. So what you got to do is you got to fight back and say, that's not fair. I'm trying to get in there. I don't stand for nepotism, because really the opposite of nepotism, help me out, Nick.
CY.
Meritocracy. Merit, meaning A meritocracy, it's a system based off of the merit and the good work that you do. And that's what entrepreneurship's all about. So I wanted to let you know why these people are coming and you're not coming. The real reason, or the real thing that I'm trying to say to you right now is, you're next. You're like the next group that's gonna get called out. We have prior relationships with these people, so we know people. But now that we're getting to know you, we're gonna start pulling you into these things. And it really comes down to you just saying yes. Just say yes. Yes, I can be there. Yes, I can make it work. And I get that a lot of you guys have other stuff going on. Usually we'll try to give you enough notice so you can move around your work schedule if you have work schedules. But we're going to try to throw a lot of opportunities out there. And they're going to be based on this and not this. Although sometimes that happens. Yeah? All right, class dismissed. It's over. We're all done. All right, so you see this. We're here, it's like 10:05, class is going, we're in it, we're ready. You got this down. I want to talk about this. It sucks when I talk about it in class because then you have to get more original in your journal entry. You can't just regurgitate all the things we talk about. So I'm gonna force you to do something there. But what is this quote? If I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. Speak to that. Somebody talk to me about that. Yeah.
You had more time, so you had easier ways to put it. Came out shorter than longer.
So I had more time, and I was able to think about what I wanted to write down, and so I was able to probably put the right words down to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anybody want to add to that?
That really resonates with me because usually when you're trying to make contact with somebody who's really busy, like somebody who's in an executive position anywhere, they don't have a lot of time. So they're not going to sit down to read an entire paragraph's worth of an email. So you need to be able to write something that's really concise to get to your point that gets you what you want from them. So.
Exactly. And it's funny, I would second that wholeheartedly in terms of, and it's funny you use the word paragraph. So now Nick's the writing guy here, and man, we got to use paragraphs. Paragraphs are fantastic when we're writing. If there are paragraphs in an email, your email's probably not getting read. I mean, there are different formats, there are different venues, there are different ways for paragraphs or quick communication, right? And so knowing your audience, knowing the form, how you're writing, what the form of communication is, will really dictate a lot of this stuff around what you're saying, how much you're writing. So I want you all to take an opportunity in your journals to start thinking about, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. I want you to think about how that could play out in your life. And then I want to ask you something very specifically. How do you see that playing out in your upcoming exhibition? So I want you to do a little bit of thinking about your exhibition there, okay? So, today we're going to talk about public speaking, which is what number fear, number 1, 2, or 3 of all Americans? Is it the biggest fear? Is it the second biggest fear? Or is it the third biggest fear among all Americans?
It's the biggest fear.
The biggest fear?
It's the second. Yeah. I think
Second?
That's
Second? We got second, we got biggest.
Who says first?
Who says first? Let me see hands. Who says second? Let me see hands.
Whoa.
Who says the third? We got one. It's the number one. Look, here, take that sip of coffee. Yeah. Meritocracy. Well, take that sip. I earned that sip. It's the number one biggest fear. Number 2. What's the second biggest fear?
Spiders, right?
I would have said spiders. This is the most genius, because, well, it's the most genius answer because that's what I would have said. So yes, spiders. That's what I always would have thought. Spiders is number 1 for me. Who's spider number 1? Spiders number 1. Well, spiders on top of a tall building would be number 1 for me. That would be like the worst. It's not spiders. It's not heights.
Wow.
Isn't it death?
It's not death. But I'm kind of afraid of that too. I'm not gonna lie. Anybody else want to throw one out there?
Clowns.
What's that?
Clowns.
Clowns? All right, that's a good one. I got to look these, so I don't know how this all stack ranks. But the second one, it's your dentist.
Really?
What?
It's your dentist. Yeah, don't you kind of feel bad? Like, don't you like feel bad for a dentist? You go through like all that schooling. You like help, like if someone's got like big crooked teeth, they come in, you fix them, and then they're like smiling all good and stuff. Well, that's an orthodontist, but the dentist, that's tough. But yeah, it's the dentist. That's what I've been told. Somebody's got to corroborate that. Somebody's got to make sure I'm not lying. You never know.
I mean, I can be mad at them because they always try to talk to you while they fix your teeth.
Oh, there's that. There's that. You don't like talking to them?
I like talking to them. It's just it's hard. You know, you got like a little needle in my mouth, and you're like,
It's
so
not
how was
good.
school?
I can't imagine Sean don't like
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Sean, he's probably like, excuse me, Sean, chill.
Let me work on your mouth even though you don't need it, Sean. We want you to be quiet.
No, this is good. Yeah, they always want to talk. I don't get it. It's like, let's just do this. Let's get out of here. But anybody, you guys seem surprised. Like, is anybody like really deeply afraid of the dentist or no?
Not this generation.
Oh, okay. Maybe we got to update this. All right, so that's the survey. So we kind of established the idea that I think everybody in this room knows that people don't like speaking in public. Or a lot of people don't. Is there anybody in this room who really loves speaking in public? Yes, 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 yes. Is there anybody who's like, I'll do it, whatever? Anybody who's just like, I'd rather go to the dentist. Who would rather go to the dentist than speak in public? Meaning, who hates speaking in public? Raise them high so I can see. 1, 2. It's all right. Out yourself. It's all good. We'll change that. We'll try. You'll change that. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about what makes good public speaking, and I want you to talk to me about it. So some of the things are up there. It's a little bit coded. You don't have to look over there. Let's just have a conversation around what do you think makes a good public speaker? What do you look for? What's dynamic? What's engaging? Brian, jumping right in. I love it.
Eye contact.
Eye contact. Look at that. He's just staring me down. Eye contact, bro. Eye contact. Yeah, eye contact. So let's talk about eye contact. I'm going to make really good eye contact. Why are you getting what are you getting all fidgety for? Why are you getting uncomfortable? Oh, because I'm staring at one person? But that's eye contact, right? Is that the type of eye contact you're talking about? What kind of eye contact are you talking
Well,
about?
when you're talking to a group, you want to look around, look at each person. You don't want to just stare down a single person. It's going to be weird.
So we got eye contact. And we want to vary it. I want to be engaging with everybody. I want to come here, and then I want to move on. And I want to come here, and then I'm going to move on. But I'm not going to stay with one person. Has anybody done this in an exhibition where they stayed with one person too long? So it's funny. Some of you taking notes, some of you aren't. I would take notes on this stuff only because it sounds really simple. We're going to say a lot of things. You're like, yeah, I know that. I know that. But just because it's simple doesn't make it easy. And just because it's simple doesn't mean you regularly practice it. And just because it's simple doesn't mean that we're not going to be not only looking for it, but expecting it and expecting more of it, right? So this eye contact piece is going to be very important. So now I also want to do this, which is, hi Carla, how are you? It's good to see you today. What did I just do?
You were just awkward.
I was awkward. I didn't look into your eyes. I can't tell you how many times we'll have people shake hands where they'll be looking down or they'll be looking up. So we're talking about public speaking, but we're also talking about when we meet and engage with people. So we're going to ask you a lot to look into people's eyes. This guy's got me locked on. He's like a heat-seeking missile right now. I could feel it. Like I could feel it right here. And it felt a little weird. But it's good because we want to make eye contact. But then we want to let him go. And we want to bring him back and let him go. When you're in your exhibition, who's the person that you end up doing the eye contact thing too long to?
Your advisor.
Your advisor. Your parents. Anybody else?
Your friends.
Your friends. It's really different for everybody, but what I would say is you run the risk of whoever you're talking to, whoever's in that audience at that moment, and if you're now talking about your work tracker, All of a sudden, I got to look right at my advisor and I got to talk about my work tracker so that they know
Who
that I
knows the most about your work tracker besides you?
Your advisor,
Your advisor.
right? So you got your advisor there, but then you start talking about your internship. Who are you staring at? Your mentor, right? You got to be careful. It's a natural thing to do to really lock in on them. When you're in this setting, when you're giving a pitch, who's your audience? Who's the most important person in that room? Who here has been to the business plan competition? Big one in the black box. Who here has been? 150 people in the audience. All those people matter. But who matters most when you are up on that stage presenting? The judges, and let's use them by their other name, which is, they're judges, but they're really what? They're investors, right? So you're investors. When you start talking about dollars and cents, maybe you want to connect right in the eyes of those investors one by one. But then also, while you're talking about your product and your market, you're going to be talking out to that audience as well, because they're potentially your customers. So you want to move between, but you do want to remember those investors, those judges, are number one in that particular instance. So we borrow this from Nick. And I went to a conference one time, and we all took a public speaking workshop for Nifty. Actually, Yes, the Yes conference. Hopefully she's not there because I'm going to ruin her shtick if she is. This lady got on stage, and she was running a public speaking workshop, and she said,
For
okay.
all Nifty students, 350 students like you in the audience.
So today I want to speak to you all about public speaking, because public speaking is very important. And if you're not a good public speaker, a lot of times people probably aren't going to listen. And all the kids, I mean, I was like, I get what you're doing. But all the kids, they were like, no, stop it. She's terrible. This lady's going to give the workshop. And then all of a sudden she can. And that's why public speaking is the most important, most dynamic. And everyone goes, oh, I see what you did there. And what she did was, she projected her voice. She went from like this little mouse to this big lion. And she talked to the cheap seats. Who here knows what the cheap seats are?
The people all the way in the back.
The people in the back. What is another word for the cheap seats? The nosebleeds. Why do they call it the nosebleed section? Why do they call it the nosebleed section? Way up in that concert, everybody says, oh, I'm in the nosebleed section, but nobody knows why. How come? Cold air, dry air, high altitudes will give you bloody noses easier. I don't think people are really getting bloody noses in those seats, but I think it's just their way of saying you're really high up there. So, you want to be talking to the cheap seats. Look at this room. How big is it? It's not that big. I don't need to be talking as loud as I am. There's probably someone in the room going, man, I wish he wouldn't speak so loud. It's kind of too much at 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't need this in my life right now. I didn't even have coffee today. Imagine if I had coffee today. Imagine that. You'd be in more trouble than you are now. But you've got to project. Why? Someone give me their best, stand up and give me their best projecting voice. Just say something. Stand up and say something.
Something.
It was good, but I would have liked it to be. Do it again with some more oomph.
Like you mean it.
Like you mean something.
Come, do it again.
Do it again.
Alright. Something.
Something?
Something.
Something. All right, somebody else.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. So guess what I did this morning? I was at the DMV, and you know when I got there at 7:30, and there were 30 people in front of me in line already. And I was there 30 minutes early. I was waiting for a long time, but I finally got my permit, so it's cool. There you go.
Thank you. All right, let's go. Let's keep it going. Who's next? Stand up. Say something.
Anything.
Like you're projecting out to those cheap seats. Like this isn't a 30 by 30 room. That's a little bit.
Who's next?
I'm really waiting for someone to stand up and be like, I am Spartacus.
You say whatever you want. But I'm not going to do all the talking today because this is public speaking. Half of this room said they love public speaking.
Hey.
Half of the room said they love public speaking. I'm not telling you to say anything other than what you want to say.
I like cheese.
Oh, please! I don't even believe you. How much do you like cheese?
Do it again.
Let these
Let's
people
hear it.
know how much you like cheese.
I like cheese very much.
Alright.
I believed you, but I didn't. I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you. I believed you, but I didn't. I think you like cheese.
It's alright.
Do you love cheese?
Not very much.
Not very much? Oh, you're just trying to get out of it now.
Love is a strong word.
Fair enough. Love is a strong word. I really do love cheese. Anybody else?
That was cheese.
I'll go. I'm gonna wait 2 hours in line on Saturday just to get to Comic-Con.
Wow, Comic-Con. How excited are you about Comic-Con?
I'm really excited because I've been waiting
Talk
for
to them.
1 whole year for this.
Woo! All right, I can see he's energetic. I'll tell you that much. What are you dressing up as?
Probably not.
Probably not. I'm not that excited. Don't be crazy.
I don't have anything good yet.
All right, anybody else? I never miss an opportunity to stand up and say something, but maybe that's my problem.
Andre, where do you intern? Stand up and tell us where you intern.
I'll be out here. I should hear you, okay?
I intern here at the youth center.
What do you do?
I intern here at the youth center, and I use Photoshop and try to make business cards and other things like brochures.
Something about intern at the E Center, Photoshop. I had to press my ear against that glass, but all right, I like
You sure
that.
you didn't have coffee this morning?
I did not.
I don't have anything to say, but I can talk kind of loud if I want to.
Great, great. You sounded confident in that talking. Anybody else?
Liam smiled too.
Ooh!
Whoa.
Whoa! Wait a second.
Yeah, he smiled.
Whatever
Is that
you do,
okay?
don't smile. When you speak, never smile. Ever. What are you smiling at? Look. Just the simplest thing you could ever do. On extenuating circumstances outside. You could have a particularly bad day where this might be challenging. But come on. You just gotta smile. Why are you all smiling at me? What's so funny? Joey always says, the smile is the only thing that you can give away and you'll get it right back. If I smile at you, what are you gonna do? No. No. No.
That's what I do.
That's what you do? You smiled at me. I watched you smile. Look, you're smiling now. What are you talking about? It's not. He's smiling, and I'm getting Chris to smile. That means I'm doing something right. Because Chris don't like to smile at me. I can tell. Come on, if you just smile, if you put a smile in your voice. We were just doing this with a small class, really, with some 9th graders. And Cole, the advisor, said, even when I call for internships, I smile when I'm speaking to these people on the phone. It's not a crazy thing to do. You can hear a smile in somebody's voice. I don't need to just see you smile. I can hear it. There's something about it. I don't understand the human body well enough to understand what does that, what changes the inflection in the voice, what makes somebody respond to the smile. I don't know, but I know that every time I smile at somebody, my day usually goes better. And so even if I'm on the phone talking to somebody, I'm smiling. I'm being excited, energetic. So this one, it's so simple that it's sad. Because I've seen kids lose. And it's not all about the competition. I mean, it's truly not. But at some point, you're going to do a lot of work on the competition, this nifty competition. You're going to go up there on stage. I've seen kids who have prepared so much, and then they don't smile on stage. And it's just like, we know, like we've been doing this long enough to know that if you don't smile when you're presenting, you're in trouble. You might get by. You might be so good you get by on some other stuff. But if you smile, you put yourself up from like a B to an A or an A to an A plus, like whatever, it brings you to that next level. And sometimes it's not always, I said it's very easy to do, but sometimes it's not that easy when you're nervous. when you're in front of a big crowd. Sometimes like your body gets hijacked and you don't do the things you want to do. But this, here's an idea. I thought about it in the last class. Somebody should design note cards in the shape of a smile. So that every time I look down at note cards, it reminds me to smile. How about that? I thought about that in the last class. I'm just saying, you should do it. I'm not going to do it. Smile, all right? I got body language, eye contact. We did that. We got enthusiasm, as in with the smile. It's catchy, okay? It's contagious. If somebody's in a good mood, you're going to respond positively to them. Let me ask you this. Do you know somebody in your life at the school that's always smiling, that's always upbeat, always energetic? Have you ever seen them on a day where they weren't? Maybe once, twice, in a moment where they weren't. Think about that person. Have you seen them in that? Was it weird? Did you think something was wrong with that person? Generally, if you're always smiling and bubbly and energetic and positive, it actually kind of makes having a tough day like even tougher. Because then you just walk into work one day and you're just like, you know what, I'm just not smiling today. And everyone's like, what's the matter? What's the matter, man? Why aren't you smiling? Hey, what's going on? And you're like, not today. People will come to expect it from you, and they'll come to look forward to it, all right? You will set yourself apart in the easiest way. Nobody's smiling at me. Why is nobody smiling at me? Thank you. All right. So that's a little bit about this stuff. That's just some of the things we're going to be looking for when you're up there on that stage giving a presentation. Yes, please.
What should your body language be when you're up on stage?
Great. So I'm going to break the fourth wall again. I'm going to say there's a camera here. I'm not supposed to. But I'm sure this camera person is not happy with the fact that I'm just like moving from my side to side, right? So one thing you want to do with your body is you want to pick a spot, okay? I'm teaching a class. I'm not presenting right now, all right? There's a huge difference in my world. The difference is that I've got to come and check in with you. I've got to shake his chair to make sure he's awake. I'm not on stage right now. I'm a little bit on stage, but I have the full room, and there's people back there that I got to make sure are engaged. So I'm trying to move around and make sure that I can connect with everybody. But if I'm on stage and it's a little bit more formal, and I'm speaking to these three people, and you are all my passive audience, and this is my active listeners, my active audience, here would be some of the things that I would say with my body. Is first of all, I'm going to come on stage and I'm going to plant my feet, okay? And I'm going to try to be mindful and aware of how much I'm fidgeting, okay? A lot of times you're going to have one of these clickers. Let me get one for you. Who here advances slides with clickers? You've seen these, right?
I never have, but I always wanted to.
So you will have an opportunity to do this. Oh my God, kids get so, everybody, they get so nervous and they click, they keep taking the back of the battery off and they keep clicking it. I have to tape this thing on. Here's another idea for you. I've tried to give this one out. Everybody gets nervous when they're giving presentations. Somebody please make me a stress ball clicker so that I don't have to do this and I can just put a stress ball around it so while I'm here. You know what a stress ball is, where it gives you a little thing? Stress ball slide advancer. It's $1 million idea. Somebody do it, please. I'm not going to do it. Again, anyhow, you're going to plant your feet. You're going to have this clicker. You're going to be mindful of the fact that this thing's in your hand and you can make all stupid noises with it. And then I'm going to start. And I'm going to start speaking. And I have two hands here. Okay? And I'm going to use those hands. I'm not going to put them behind my back. I'm not going to put them in my pockets. I'm not going to cross my arms. Because if I cross my arms, then I just look mad. So my hands are here. I'm gesticulating is what we would call that, gestures. So I'm talking to you. And then, after about maybe 30, 40 seconds, whatever you feel is right, this is not a science, I think, okay, it's time that I engage this side of the room. And I'm going to walk with purpose. I'm not going to pace over here. Like, I just ended up here by accident. I got here on purpose. And then if I come into this space, I'm going to stay in this space and I'm going to talk to you. And then I'm going to move from this side and I'm going to talk to you. But when I get here, I'm going to plant my feet. I'm going to be rooted. So my body is going to be straight up. I'm going to have command of it and I'm going to know where it's going. That's a short / long answer / a totally unscientific answer. The real thing is, you do what feels comfortable, but you understand that you are a body in space and in motion, and that this and like just fidgeting and moving around and oh, please don't turn your back to the audience. Never. Who here has done any bit of theater in their life? Anybody ever done theater? The number one thing is you never turn your back to the audience, okay? You move backwards. You move forward. But this is just like the greatest sign of disrespect, and you really can't even hear me if I'm speaking that way to the wall. So you don't want to turn your back to the audience. Any other questions on this? Okay. Let's move on. Who here signed up for the pitch competition? Who here signed up for the pitch competition at Nifty, for the YES conference? Raise your hands really, really tall. Raise them tall. Who here signed up? Raise your hand. I know that you did. Who sent me an email? When I say signed up, I mean who expressed interest to me that they wanted to be part of the people that were pitching at Yes? Raise them up high. High, so I can see them. I got to get a good look on this. Raise your hands if you didn't. Put your hands down. Now raise your hand if you didn't. Why? Why didn't you sign up? You should all be signing up. You are all in the running. But here's the deal. We can only have one person go. We ask for 2. We usually try.
You're all going to the conference.
You're all going to the
One person
conference.
goes to the pitch
One
conference.
person gets to pitch at that pitch conference. And the winner wins $250 in an Amazon gift card right before the holidays. Wow. What a pleasure that would be. Okay? So now I'm going to ask again, would anybody like to express interest in participating at the Nifty Youth Entrepreneurship Pitch Competition, in which they could potentially win $250 to Amazon, and everybody that does participate gets $25, knowing that we can only send one person from this room? Raise your hands really, really high so that I can get a good handle on this. So that's a no. That's, your hand just went up, that's great. And that's a no. So I have 2 no's. Okay. Y'all guys are going to be involved in this lesson. You're going to have to learn all the lesson. You're going to have to do all the stuff. And then you still don't get the money. Crazy to me. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over what makes a good 60-second pitch. That's what we're going to use this class for. So we're going to go over what makes a good 60-second pitch. And then on Monday, because we don't have school on Friday, dagger, I'm sure you're all just so upset about that. What will you do with a 3-day weekend? You know it's going to be
They're
like...
probably upset they don't have school. They're probably not upset about school. But we don't have E360. Right?
Wow.
What?
Oh, that's crazy.
Filler.
Do you know what the temperature is supposed to be this Friday?
It's like 40 degrees.
Like in the 30s. Ha ha. Enjoy that. No, it's going to be great.
I'm going to put out there too. We call it a 60-second pitch. We call it a rocket pitch. We call it an elevator pitch. We call it a 30-second pitch. It all means the same. If you hear something with pitch, we're just talking about that brief introduction, and I'm sure Brandon's going to say it, to grab someone's attention. How much time do you have? Typically, they call it an elevator pitch. Why do you think, given that it's to grab someone's attention, and they call it an elevator pitch? Why do you think those 2 things go together?
I think I remember it was like if you're in an elevator with someone and you have like a certain amount of time to talk to that person while in the elevator before they leave. So you want to get their attention to talk to them.
Spot on, Kevin.
Spot on. You're right there. You're in a closed little box with this person. They can't go anywhere. They're trapped. You got their full attention. I always like to ask this question, though. What's the tallest building in Providence?
The Superman.
The Superman building. How many floors is it? I think it's about 30. I think it's 25 to 30 floors. So 25 to 30 floors in Providence. this is a side comment. How many of those floors have tenants? How many of those floors are rented out to people? Does anybody know this? Do you know that that entire building is empty? That whole building is empty. The tallest building in Providence is completely empty. Can somebody, I don't have an answer for that one. Can somebody please figure out what to do with the Superman building? Like a party, anything, something. Look at him, he's like, I could DJ something real good from that top floor. Yes, I could. So 25 to 30 floors in Providence. If you were in Dubai, what's the tallest building in Dubai? How many floors is the tallest building?
Isn't it like 200 or something? Or 100?
I think it's like 140. Don't quote me on it, but it's called the Burj Khalifa. The reason I bring this up, and it comes back to our quote, if I had more time, I'd written a shorter letter. If you're in Dubai, you'll have more time to talk on that elevator. You'll have like a 90-second pitch. Or their elevators are real fast, like crazy fast, and they play wacky music as you go up them. But it's fast, but you're going to have more time. So you got to know, how much time do I have? And the reason I bring that up is because all elevator pitch competitions or business plan competitions all have very unique and specific rules. Do you know what this one is? Is it 60 seconds?
I think it's 60 seconds.
This one's 60 seconds. It's important because after 60 seconds, you start to get penalized. Anybody here ever do spoken word poetry? Anybody? No? Any type of thing that you do that has a time limit, you start to get penalized afterwards. So you are going to have 60 seconds for this elevator pitch. That's the average ride in an elevator, okay? Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. So now you have 60 seconds. That's not a lot of time. What can you do in 60 seconds? If you are going to try to pitch somebody on your business, get them interested in what you do, get them involved somehow, how do you think this might go? How would you use your 60 seconds? And let's use somebody's business idea that they have right now. Raise your hand if you want to volunteer your business idea. This is a good opportunity. What do you got? What's your business idea?
To start a class for kids who do not know how to do basic needs for their cars.
Okay, so a class that teaches basic automotive skills. I turned my back to you because I had to write on the board. Okay, I excuse myself.
That's not good enough.
It's not good enough? All right. All right, class that teaches basic automotive skills. Okay, without me telling you how to make a pitch, let's figure this out. You got 60 seconds to get me interested, excited, engaged around your business. What are some questions you might have? What are some things you think we ought to be doing? Liam?
Make it sound important right away.
Okay, so you want to be important. Make it sound important.
Well, emphasize its importance, not make it, it's not pretentious.
Okay, so we want to show that this is important. Okay, I'm with that. I don't know how we're going to do that yet.
Make them feel like they need it by asking questions.
So if I were doing the pitch, I would ask the questions?
Yeah, like, let's say, in this case, it could be like, have you ever been stranded and not known how to change your tire?
Great. So we could ask a question that engages. Who here saw the 4th episode of Seinfeld in 1988?
Which one is this?
That is so specific.
Exactly. Nobody is going to know the answer. If you ask a question, make sure that it is broad enough and general enough that there's enough hands that go up that go, yes, I know that experience, because the worst thing in the world is to ask a question and everybody's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, right? But this is a great technique. So there's this nice fine balance between asking a question that engages, that's broad, but also specific to what you're doing. So here's a great technique. What else can we do? What are some of the things we think we should be doing if I'm trying to engage you in my business? I'll ask this question. what's your objective? What is your objective? What are you trying to do?
To make them want what you're selling.
So you're saying to make them want what you're selling. So who would you be talking to in that?
Consumers.
Okay, so to buy. So buy my service. And you're talking to a customer or a consumer. Any other objectives that you might have? That's it. We are always perpetually selling. I'm always pitching to sell to a customer. That's it. Yeah, debut.
Referrals.
Say that louder for me.
Referrals.
Referrals. Okay, so how do you mean? Give me a little bit more.
Like if it's for someone, if it's for kids, then you would be talking to like parents or something that want it for their.
Okay, so you're getting to this kind of customer-consumer thing again, which I think is important because your customers are the people that are buying. Your consumers are the ones that are using. Sometimes your customer and consumer are the same, but in this situation, it might not be. This might be for parents who want to get their kids basic automotive stuff because they feel like, oh, if they're going to be out there and they get a flat tire, I want them to know what to do. I don't want them changing the tire because that's dangerous, but I want them to know that they should pull over to the side of the road or do whatever. So, great. So we could be referring out. What else?
Investors.
Great. So we have investors. And so what would be your objective for investors?
To get them to give you money.
So invest. And those would be your investors. Okay? Before you give any pitch, before you give any presentation, before you give any public speaking, or before you engage in any public speaking, there are two questions that I think we should be asking ourselves that are bigger than the elevator pitch. The first one is, who is your audience? Okay? I would write this one down because this is like one of the top 5-6 things in life, truly. Who is your audience? Who are you speaking to? And what's your objective? So for that particular audience, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? What's the goal here? All right? So your objective and your audience. Let's...
Who was here when we watched 1098 over at the Equality Building? Right? So, do you remember this student that was deaf
Yes.
and got up there? So a lot of times, right, like I just keep thinking of the question he asked. That was pretty engaging. And he wasn't even speaking, right? Like, how many people, I can't do it all, want, like, the
A ticket to
ticket to,
PBS.
yeah, right? Too bad, so he was selling his business within that 30 seconds, because if you want to learn sign language, you could have got a ticket to the Red Sox. Does that make sense? Like, that's the connected dot for me on that.
Yeah, and so there are these different ways. So if we jump into it, so now let's say we start speaking, all right? We're here, we're at the pitch. We know who our audience is, we're talking to investors, and our objective is to get an investment. Where do we want to start? Liam says importance. I'm going to erase this. You guys good?
Yep.
I didn't really give you much of a chance, so you have to be. We start with what's called, and so this is going to be a formula. So Giselle asked me, well, what do I do with, what would be some of that body language stuff? And I said, well, it's not a perfect art and it's not a perfect science. It's what feels comfortable. Here are some things you can do. We're going to talk a lot more about this. The elevator pitch is not a perfect art and it's not a perfect science, but it does kind of have a formula. There is an established formula out there in the world. You can deviate, you can add your own little sprinkling of creativity, but there's a formula. And for those of you, I'm not sure if I close this loop. For those of you who want to participate in the Nifty competition, we're going to go over what a hook is, what a pitch is today. On Monday, you're going to have the opportunity to share out your pitch to the class, and we're going to pick, as a class, who we think is most ready to go represent us at Nifty. So only one person. And so I wanted to just close that loop. This formula that I'm about to give you is the formula that you're going to want to use from now until Monday. And you can plug in any business idea that you want. We're going to talk a lot in this class about feasibility. And we will talk about what's feasible. But right now, because we're not there, whatever you got's whatever you got. You have at it, yes.
What's the day that we're going to Babson again?
The 17th, I believe it's Wednesday, November 17th.
Okay, thank you.
That's a Friday.
Friday, November 17th.
How long are we gonna be there?
We will be there all day, but we will be back by 3 o'clock. So we'll be back before school ends. We leave there at 1:30. It's about an hour away. With traffic, we'll be back by 3. Okay? Buses, lunch, the whole deal.
At what time do we need to be here?
I will let you know that, but it'll be early.
Okay.
It'll be before school starts. It'll be like 7:30, something like that. It could be even earlier. 7 o'clock probably.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
here every day by that time.
Perfect. So, let's get back to the pitch. This is what you'll be working on for that $250 Amazon gift card. Think about all the gifts you can buy yourself. It'd be great. What would you buy?
Yeah, sport.
What would you buy?
Probably like stuff that people want off Amazon, you know, like the little stuff that everybody goes crazy for, like phone cases and screen protectors.
Oh, so you're gonna start like selling this stuff?
Maybe.
Oh. Or were you just buying it to give away?
Yeah, like stocking stuff is.
Oh, all right. So you were being generous and giving. What would you buy? Chris, what would you buy?
Mixing console.
Mixing console? Well, then get in the game, man. All right. Where do we start? We said we want to get their importance. Where do we start? What do I want to do? What's the first thing I want to do? I walk up on that stage. What should I be doing?
Introduce yourself.
Introducing yourself? What is the most interesting thing about you? Is the most interesting thing about you your name?
No.
So then I don't care.
Wow.
I don't care. That's not the most interesting. I just met you. The first thing, I'm Brandon. Well, I don't care. I mean, eventually I want to care. Eventually later on, you're like, have you ever talked to somebody for like hours and you don't know their name?
Yeah.
And you didn't need to know their name? And then like somewhere in there, like, this person's probably cool enough that I should probably get their name. Like maybe now I'm ready to invest the time to learn your name. So I don't need your name right off the bat. What do I need? What do I want? What do we need to do?
Establish the idea.
So I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to say, I've got an automotive service for, well, whoa. Why? What? You're just jumping right in. I don't have any backstory. I don't have anything. What do you got to do?
Gotta hook them in.
You got to hook them in. That's what we would call the hook. So here's the first piece of the formula. You got to hook them. You got to throw out that fishing line. Anybody been fishing before? You don't just throw it out. Once you get that nibble, what do you got to do?
Yeah.
What do you get? Yeah, you don't just start reeling. What do you do before you reel? You got to yank. You got to like get that thing really hooked in there. So you got to plant the deep hook, or they might hear you. They might see you're enthusiastic, but then they might be like, nah, I'm not really buying what you're putting down. Okay? So there are some techniques. Carla had a great technique. Let's ask a question. So you can ask a question. So the class that teaches basic automotives. That's what we're working on. So I can ask a question that engages. And remember, it's got to be broad enough that a lot of people in that room can identify with it, but specific enough that they go, oh, I know what you're talking about. Who here has a favorite stand-up comedian? Okay. Who's your favorite stand-up comedian?
Cat Williams.
Cat Williams? In stand-up comedy, a lot of times we laugh when we go, oh, I know what he's talking about. I know exactly what he's talking about. We laugh when we can identify with the joke. If I don't have any context to base the joke, right? So this is a bold strategy Because being a stand-up comic is pretty hard. It's like one of the hardest things to do. Asking a question that's going to get the right response, it's not impossible, but you've got to be really good about it. You've got to make sure that it's a shared experience. What else can I do? How else can I grab your attention? How else can I hook you? What's that?
Relate to them.
Okay, how?
Quick background story.
Okay, a quick background story.
It sounds a little difficult, but
So I'll call that an anecdote, and I'll spell it wrong.
That's how you spell it.
I won't spell it wrong. Who said that? Webster in the class. I like that. Anecdote. So I'm with you that that is a potential possibility. But remember, I'll write this up in the corner of the board as a reminder that you've got 60 seconds. Okay? So that story better be very engaging and very relevant and should be leading you somewhere. So great. What else? What else can you be doing? You can tell a quick story. You can ask a question. You can say a quote. So I can give you a quote. If I can find some quote that's really profound, that gets people going, wow, that's interesting, and then sets the stage for somewhere where you're going. Because again, this whole thing, you're setting a stage for yourself. You're just getting their attention, yes.
You added an extra T.
Right here.
Yeah.
I was going to erase it, and you told me it was good. I was so ready to erase it, and you told me, because I looked, I said, that doesn't look right to me. Weber. I'm going to call you Weber, not Webster.
Okay, but I still corrected you, so.
You corrected me improperly. I was going to self-correct. You know what? You're right. You did. Okay. What else for a hook? How else can I get your attention? There's a big one that we're missing. There's a big one.
Statistics.
maybe a joke.
A joke. Wow. You are bold and daring. Hold on. So I'm going to write statistic because somebody said it. A stat, a fact, a figure. And it should be startling. It should be like, wow. So the joke, I'll put joke up there, but I wouldn't do it. I've started a few things with a joke before. It was bad. So bad. My face turned redder than it is right now. Okay? Truly. So you can do the joke, but I'd use that sparingly. Am I missing anything? Am I missing anything?
Those are all great ways to get someone's attention, I would think.
Who
Well,
here?
I mean, I would just go back to the audience again, right? You know, with what you saw in the movie. If someone in the audience knew sign language, because it was kind of a joke, right? It would have been a complete fail, because he would have had to give 2 Red Sox tickets away that he probably didn't have. So you gotta know your audience. Your questions should be relevant, as Brandon's saying, or anything, your statistic, your story. If you tell a joke, again, sparingly, your quote. Think about today's quote. If I had more time, I'd have written a shorter letter, and we're talking about a 30-second pitch that totally gets them engaged with the next probably 8 minutes that you want to talk to them about your business if they make the time. So every quote is pretty relevant in this class. You'll notice that as we go along, just like it should be in anything that you're presenting.
I once heard, yeah, Nick.
I'd like to give people a warning about questions. You did it briefly when you started this.
Yeah.
Okay? Good lawyers never ask a question that they don't already know the answer to. You don't want to say, how many people in this room own zebras? Right? I mean, you're dead. The answer is nobody owns zebras. So if you're going to ask a question, you need to know what the audience has for an answer. I'd take joke off.
Yeah, it's a tough one. If you can do, because here's the thing. I'll defend joke for a moment because here's what I think about as a joke. And Nick's like, don't defend it. Get off of it. But here's the thing. A joke is the opposite of your expectation. Just think on that for a moment. And here's what I would say. What that woman did that I talked to you about earlier, when she got up there and said, today I'm going to talk to you about public speaking, because public speaking is very important. That was kind of a joke. That was a little bit of a joke. She was playing with our expectation of what we expected, and then she turned it around, right? So yeah, I wouldn't go up there and just tell a joke that has no connection. But if you are playing with someone's expectation about, because I would say that the sign language thing was a bit of a joke as well. Kind of. It's having fun. So I'm not saying tell a joke. What I'm saying is you can play with people's expectation, because when you flip it, all of a sudden their heads pop up and they go, wow, I did not see that coming. Where are we going now? Where are we going next? And that's the question, which is, after I hook you in, where are we going next? What I will say before we leave the hook is a startling stat, figure, or statistic is not only a safer bet, but in the business world, we generally have a lot of stats and figures and numbers, because you're going to be talking to investors in this particular instance. A lot of times we think in numbers, and we're looking for the numbers, and we relate to. So as Sean said, we got to relate to them with a story. Maybe part of our story is about some stat, some figure, and what you need to do, it's your responsibility. There's this amazing thing. It's a pretty new invention over the last 15 years, 20 years. It's called Google. Has anybody heard of it?
I don't think so.
Has anybody heard of Google? If you've heard of Google and know how to use it, it's pretty simple. There's this little bar, and you type things you want to know, and then you get it. It's amazing. You can find any stat, figure, statistic that is available out there. Okay? They're all out there. So you've got to figure out, how many flat tires do we get in a year? How many times did you know that the average person, and this is a question, did you know that the average person pays nearly 15 to 20% more for their basic automotives because they didn't know what services they need? Something like that. That shows that we're ignorant to what we should be doing. Most people always feel like with their mechanics, because this is something that's totally outside our realm of understanding. Oh, it's a motor, I don't get it at all. They always think that the mechanic's trying to take them for a ride. They always think the mechanic is trying to get one over on them and charge them more money, because you have no idea what's going on under that hood. So there's some sort of a story that I can connect with. Let's go around the room. Let me give you a moment to think. Your business idea. And think about a question, an anecdote, a stat, or some quote that you want to volunteer that would relate to, that could hook me into your business. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to have you tell me what your business idea is, and then the beginning of. I don't need, even if you're like, oh, I want to find a stat around this. You don't need to tell me the stat. So just think for a moment where you might start your pitch.
Can I put one more thing up there?
Yeah, please.
Like,
Do you want to put it up there?
No, I have horrible handwriting.
Okay.
But this is something that I've heard when I was like watching videos on how to sell things to people, and they said emotion, like connect to them.
Okay.
And then he said another thing about the 3 Ps, but he didn't really go into depth with that.
So here's what I'm going to do. I hope you will appreciate this. I'm going to build this. Emotion is the sort of foundation, I would think, for all of this. I could put emotion off of here, but when I do it, do I just be happy or angry? Like, what do I do with that emotion? So I don't know that I can just be emotive, meaning I can just have emotion in front of you. But at the bottom of this, on the foundation of your entire pitch, if I don't feel like you're emotionally connected,
The person meant to like sell the object with emotion. Like, for example, if I was gonna sell you this pen, I know you're a businessman. I'd have you close your eyes and have you think about a whole business thing you've been working for a long time. You take a chewed up 4-cent pen, and he was just saying that like technically connecting the product to their lives, and it helps them like think they need it.
so you're saying in this way, you want to connect to your audience's emotions. I would agree wholeheartedly. I would think, and I would go back to this, which is, how do you do that? So these are some techniques, but if you give me a stat that's, you know, 1 out of every, did you know that 1 out of every 100 dogs gets lost, but then gets found? Okay. That's horrible. Why did that happen, right? But did you know that 50% of all dogs that are lost are never found? That's so sad, right? So you're connecting to their emotion, right? Does that fit here? Because I would put emotion off of here, but I don't know what you're doing to hook me in other than to say any of these things. If I have some great quote and I say it like a monotone like this, there's no emotion behind it, and I don't connect with those people. Did we have a time to think? Let's just go popcorn style. Let me hear from people, business idea, and a way you think you might hook somebody. Don't leave me hanging on tape. What do you got?
I do basic automotive needs I would be teaching in class, but who here was late to something because they got a flat tire?
Great. Who here was late to something because they got a flat tire? Let me ask a question. Ask the group. Who here has ever been late to something because they got a flat tire? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's a good question. But now you connect back. Who here has ever been late due to car trouble? So the flat tire seems to be a little bit too specific, but car trouble is not necessary, right?
Yeah.
So let's think about it. So I think it's a great example. Thank you for going because 1, it's a good question. 2, I think it's broad enough that you're going to get people involved, but it was too specific around this flat tire and being late, right? So you've added 2 things in there that you got to balance. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to modify my objection to questions.
Yeah, you don't like questions no matter
But wait,
what. I know this.
But wait, after I said that, I started to think about your question. How many people know what a rhetorical question is? Yeah? A rhetorical question is one that doesn't expect an answer. So I asked that wrong. Right? I would say, well, I don't know what I'd say. Let's go back to the tires. Okay, how many people have? That's your question, and you want hands to go up. Did you know that 50% of people who show up late for work did it because they got flat tires? No. But that's okay, because he doesn't expect an answer. He's giving you a fact with a question mark at the end. He's not asking for a show of hands about who knew it. He's going to ask the question, and he's going to go right on to the next sentence without waiting for an answer. I'm very, very impressed that everybody in this room knows what a rhetorical question is. I really am.
I think that's super important, right? There are ways that you're framing your question. You can, did you know? And then you give them that stat. So now, by the way, why would a did you know question, why does any question, why is that helpful? Why are questions helpful?
You feel like you're learning something.
I feel like I'm learning something, but my mind is programmed, absolutely. Oh, question. What's the question? It's just the way that the mind works. It's like, okay, there's a question, I gotta listen. I'm tuning in now because there's a question and they're asking me, right? So it's a way to get connected with them. But yeah, I would challenge you to think about how do you ask it so that you're stating and controlling. What Nick did was control the narrative. He controlled the conversation. He knew where it was going. He didn't allow it to take a turn towards the worse. Or for the worse, excuse me. All right, so who else? Come on, there are ideas in this room. There are people that want to present. This is a great opportunity to workshop your pitch right here in this class and get feedback. Yes, and then yes.
Did you know the closest Ecuadorian restaurant near Rhode Island is in New York?
Wow. How do we improve this? Did you know that the closest Ecuadorian restaurant to Rhode Island is in New York City?
New York State.
Oh, New York State. Anybody have an improvement? No? Nothing? We're good?
Project your voice more and put more emotion into it.
Okay, so now we're talking, by the way, so we're talking about these things, which I'm all for. But let's go actually to the words of your question. How do we structure that? Could we make that more compelling?
Make it a statement.
So you want to make it a statement. How do we make it a statement?
The closest.
Okay.
I know you could go.
Go ahead.
The closest Ecuadorian restaurant from Rhode Island is in New York City.
Or New York State. Sorry, that was my fault.
And then say, who knew?
Oh no.
Yeah, who knew?
Now let's go
You don't
with
need
listen.
an answer for that, right? You gave me a fact, and then you said, who knew?
How far? Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking about you asking them, like, if you was said I was rich, asking them, oh, geez, will any of you know where I could find some good Ecuadorian food?
So now what happens? If I say, does anybody here know where I can find some good Ecuadorian food? I got 60 seconds. What's going to happen?
Hands are gonna start going.
Yeah, I got a place for you. And now all of a sudden you lost them, right? Now I'm getting Yelp recommendations rather than giving my pitch. So I think that that's an example of where we might want to move away from. It's still a good question. It still gets at what we're doing. But at this moment, to start with, it's a tough question, right? Because it sets you up for a lot of exposure. It sets you up for a conversation, right? And you want to be careful. You want this to feel like a dialogue, like we're having a conversation, but I'm doing all the talking for 60 seconds. All right? You want it to feel like I really care, you know? I want to know. Did you know this? But here's another thing, and somebody balance me out, because I don't know that I totally believe this. So you're saying I don't know that I believe. What's funny is I pushed that. I wasn't even pushing. I'm saying I don't even know if I believe what I'm going to say next. So, would it be more powerful to not say New York State, which I think is powerful because, New York State, that's far away.
Say New York.
To say New York, or to say that you'd have to travel over 175 miles. Okay, so
3 hours.
3 hours, right. You'd have to travel 3 hours, 175 miles, or to New York State. You get to test which one of those are more powerful. I think Jody's is the most powerful in terms of, it's time. Like, that's a unit of measurement that we all understand. I could be doing a lot in 3 hours of time, right? 175 miles, I might have a lead foot. That's
6 hours round trip.
Yeah, a 6 hour round. Oh, look at what we did there.
Whoa.
We just brought the round trip element into it, right? So you're choosing and selecting your facts and your figures and your statistics that are true, honest, and relevant, but you're going to use them and put them in a way that makes your case the most compelling. We just said 3 hours. We just left that whole other trip back on the table. Now we're up to 6 hours. That's great. I love that, right? Versus New York. New York.
By the time you get home, you're hungry again, and the food you like
It's
is another
cold.
3 hours away.
Right? So this is a good one. So think about the specifics. All right, who else? Another idea. I haven't heard from some folks. I'd love to hear from you. You know who you are.
You might not even have your question or fact, but you might know that's what you want to lead with. That's really the question.
Nobody else. I got 2 people that got a little bit of feedback who are now ahead of the game, if you were to ask me. Yes?
Let's say my pitch, my business.
Louder.
I'll say my business plan first.
Sure. What's your business? What's your idea? What product are you thinking of selling? And how do you think you might engage someone around this?
Okay, so my business plan, or my business idea is to sell origami products. And my hook would be, does anyone like art? Or does anyone like to decorate? Or something like that.
Okay. So you're going with the question route, and the question loud so everybody can hear you.
Does anyone like art?
Okay. So does anybody like art?
Yeah, he's actually my brother-in-law. He's a great guy.
I like art. Where are you going? Where do you go next? It's a very broad question. I think you might get some hands. I think people might actually be confused. Like, I think I like art? What is art? I don't know if I understand art. Do you get art?
People don't really like to raise their hands.
People also don't really like to raise their hands, right? I'm on Nick's page. let's stay in this world. When you go home, let's stay away from questions that make people raise their hands. Okay? Let's make statements in the form of questions. Did you know that every person I've ever talked to in my whole life, minus 3, say they love art? That's a crazy statement. I wouldn't start with it. But at least state it. Let them know what the deal is rather than who here likes art. And then people are going to look around like, I think I do, but I'm not sure that I want this person, right? So let's work on it.
You put a fork in the road, though,
Yeah.
particularly with Gabriel. You all know he does origami. Start with origami. So at our business plan competition now a couple years ago, we had a student that did drones. He made a gimbal, which is the piece on the bottom of the drone that holds the camera. And he made one that was waterproof, even salt waterproof. Really cool kid. He was a senior at a manufacturer in Florida by the time he graduated. He flew the drone in on stage. He's not even talking. He's got his little thing, right? And all of a sudden, everybody hears this noise and they watch the drone come down on the stage. Right? That was his first 10 seconds. And he went, drones. They're not going away. And went into his pitch. So when you have a product, even if you start with a question, even if you start with a quote, even if you start with a startling statistic or data or some fact, if you have your product, and you all won't, use it as part of your 30-second pitch, right? Another student made airbrush t-shirts. They were awesome, right? So he's given his pitch. I don't remember what his pitch was, and most of the people know what he didn't say probably didn't. Because within 30 seconds, as he's giving you his pitch, he's unbuttoning his nice button-down white shirt he had on that day. Everybody's like, oh, where is he going with this, right? Well, by the time he got done with his pitch, he opened his shirt, and it was this incredible yellow and black bumblebee on a white t-shirt. And he said, this is what I'm talking about, and went into his plan. So
Yeah.
if you have a product or something you can show, even better.
Yeah.
Here's one last thing about questions. It's a fact. 73.7% of all the students in this competition are going to start with a question.
So you can differentiate yourself. You can be different, right? To Nick's point, a lot of people start with questions. To Jody's point, what is the most compelling, cool, or interesting thing about your product, your idea? If you have it, bring it. Show it. So
Marker.
you're trying to think about, because here's the next thing. You're trying to think about, how do I get their attention? But then, you only have 60 seconds, so we have a roadmap, and we're going to get to where we go next. There's a roadmap. Now what? I have your attention. Now that I know that you all like art, now that you all know how far a Peruvian restaurant is from here, Ecuadorian restaurant, now what? What happens? Like, there's got to be the next thing.
So, you're looking at what I wrote? Or
Yeah,
what you wrote?
yeah.
What I wrote is going to have to do with at the end of the class. I just don't
okay.
want to forget.
Okay, cool. So now I got your attention. I gave you some startling facts, some figure. I've got you engaged. You're with me. You know something about my business. You know the thing that I think is most cool, compelling, or interesting about my business, that I'm going to go, this is going to be the thing that's going to get you. So now what do I do? What now? Now I have your attention. You're all staring at me. Now what? What happens? What do I do with all the eyeballs?
Put them on what you're selling.
Do I go to what I'm selling?
Do you? Yeah.
I don't know. So I've got your attention. Let me tell you, now that I have all of your attention, let me tell you about this really amazing solution and product that I've come up with.
No, because you have to tell them what the problem is.
I helped you out there, didn't I? Right?
Very much.
So we've got to go towards, why should I care? The next thing is, okay, I've got your attention. Why should I care about what you're talking to me about? Why should I care? That might be in the form of 50% of people have experienced car trouble in their life that made them late for some important function, job interview. Let's say job interview. In today's economy, with employment levels or unemployment levels at 11%, I'm making this up, there's just no room for error to be late. We've got to make sure that we show up to places on time because it really puts a lot, or because it really says a lot about us as young entrepreneurs, as business people. And so I want to make sure that you're never late, because when you're late, people notice. I don't know. I just made that up. I don't find it all that compelling nor strong. But the problem that I was trying to relate was when you're late, it sets you back. When you're late, it doesn't look good. When you're late, you can miss a job. When you're late, you can miss an opportunity. So I'm establishing some problem. So what I would say next is, you've got to get them, or you've got to answer the question. So now I've got your attention. Now you're answering the question for yourself. Why should they care? Really, why should I care? You're all the eyes. Why should they care? Likely because there's some problem or some need or some issue that is creating what for people or animals or the world? Solution. Well, so we're going to want to get to the solution, but what's this problem, need, or issue creating for me?
A want or a need.
So it's creating an opportunity for you as entrepreneurs. It is creating a want or a need, but what is the, let me ask this, what's the problem with a problem? What's the problem with a problem?
It exists.
It exists. And what happens when a problem exists? If my life is just absolutely full of problems, right? What do I want to do?
Find a solution.
Why? Why does having a life full of problems? It makes it easier, more comfortable. It's kind of painful. I don't really like to struggle that much. There are some struggles. There's pain points. There's things that suck when you have problems. So I'll ask this question. So I'll just ask you, how do you make it suck less? How do you make it suck less? Here's a problem. But here's the thing. Just because I tell you there's a problem, and again, remember, you got 60 seconds, and I'm throwing a lot at you. But just because it's a problem, and just because I tell you it's a problem, you might have never experienced what I'm talking about. You might not know some of the things that happen related to this problem. So it's my job to bring you in. What are some of the negative ramifications? What are some of the consequences? What are some of the things that happen because this problem, need, or issue exists? Who here washes dishes at home? Okay. When you're washing dishes in the sink, do you use one hand or two hands?
Two hands.
Two hands. One's holding the plate, one's holding the sponge, right? What's the water doing? Just running, right? How often are you using that water that's running? When you're scrubbing, are you using the water?
No.
Are you wasting that water?
Yeah.
Okay, I look at this problem every day. And because we've been washing dishes like this forever, it seems like a normal problem. But in my house, maybe I waste a gallon of water, and in your house, you waste a gallon of water, and we collectively waste 350 million gallons of water, which is enough fresh water to supply an entire village somewhere. So I'm going to connect the dots for you. Just because I waste 1 gallon of water in my house, it doesn't feel like a big deal. But if I add up all that waste, and I say this is a big problem, because there's a global water shortage. And in 25 years, there's not going to be enough water to go around, so we've got to do everything we can right now to solve this problem. But if I just tell you, I waste water and that's a problem, why? I don't know why. Maybe this person that you're talking to is super up to date on the water crisis. But likely they have no idea what you're going to be talking about. So you've got to connect the dot to the pain point. Why should I care? Why should I care about what you're telling me? Okay, fine, it's a problem. Yeah, but did you know that 300 million people are experiencing this problem? Now I'm just talking to you. I wouldn't ask you as a question. Don't worry. 300 million people are experiencing this problem, and that means that 300 million people are going to bed hungry every night. I don't know what the problem we're talking about, but I'm going to give you specifics, and I'm going to give you specific pain points. You need to know. Then we're going to go to where Chris and Liam wanted to go. Now that I've set the problem up, now that you know the pain points, what do you got to do?
Show them what you got.
Show me what you got. What do you got? What's your solution? So the next thing is, what's your solution? What do you do? What do you do? We've talked about this a little bit, and maybe we'll get here. This is kind of a weird question. What kind of businesses out there? What kind of businesses? Businesses sell things. And what are some things, big categories? What do they sell? Things. What do you call things? Products. Thank you. So this is where I'm trying to go with this. So there are product-based businesses. Okay? What else?
Services.
There are services. And then I think there's like a blend of the two, which are like experiences. But most of your stuff is going to fall into either a product or a service or some experience that has an element of product and service there. So when I ask you what your solution is, you tell it to me, but you got to be thinking about, am I a product business or a service business? Someone help me out. So Chris says things. Products are things. So there's some object, some tangible, on-the-shelf thing that we grab. Talk to me a little bit about a service. I think we all know what a product is, and I think we all know what a service is, but talk to me a little bit about a service.
Doing something for somebody else.
So you do something for somebody else. In the product-based business, you got this thing. It's made of like raw materials. That's your big input. That's like your big cost. What does it cost to make my origami? And also, how long does it take me to make the origami? In the service-based business, what's the big currency? What are you exchanging? Time, right? Here's my time. I know how to do something. I'll do this. So you're either a product or a service-based business, most likely. You can invent a whole new class. I'd love it. It'd be great. But now you're telling me, here's my solution. Here's what I got going. Okay. I'm going to wrap and bring this home. So now you just got my attention. You just told me there's a big problem out there, and here's why it's such a big problem, and here's where the pain points are. And here's my product or solution. One thing that we always forget to do is if you're going to bring up a pain point, you're going to tell me what the problem is, your solution better address that pain point. I can't tell you how many times we think people are just going to connect the dots for us. Your product or service needs to speak directly to the pain points that you brought up. You've got to solve them. And we're going to give you examples of this. So we're just giving you the format here, and we will give you examples of how this works. I tell you what my product or my service is, it seems obvious that's my solution, but you've got to really do the work, the mental math and the mental gymnastics for people, because they're not going to do it for you. And here's the last thing I want to know. And Sean, it's finally your time to shine. You just told them, I got your attention, I got a product, or rather, here's a problem, here's a solution, and what do you want to do first? No, what did you want? How did you want to get people's attention? How did you want to get them involved?
Oh, sorry.
You wanted to say your name, right?
Name,
Remember? Crazy enough, you've been talking for 45 seconds. And my name's Brandon Lane, and I'm the CEO and founder of this, and here's why I'm prepared to do this. At this point, and you, by the way, you can introduce yourself whenever it feels natural in this thing. There is no set time. There's got to be a good time. You'll find the natural point to say, here's who I am, here's what my name is. But the last thing that you need to do for me is why you. Why are you qualified? Why do I believe you? Why is a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old person standing in front of me talking about this big problem, all these pain points? Who the heck are they to think that they can address this? You all, my Met people, are super fortunate because you have certifications, because you have internships, because you've done real project work. You have real stuff to pull from, okay? You have things likely. My guess is if you've been really interested in food at this school that you've probably got some ServSafe certifications. True or false? Okay, if I'm talking about food in Ecuadorian restaurants, I'm probably going to talk about, and I'm a ServSafe certified food handler, manager, whatever it is. If you've worked in retail and you want to talk about starting a clothing line, and I work at this great retail store and I know what sells and I know how to work with customers, if you want to be helping people, I would guess that you've maybe interned with a mechanic. My guess is that you have some certification. Probably not a certification yet, but maybe, I don't know. So what do you have from your Met career, and then really outside of your career, from your life, from anywhere, that's going to lend credibility? By the end of this, 60 seconds, you have the big, hard job of making yourself incredible. Incredible. Let's break that word down for a second. If I say, Andre's a credible guy, what am I saying? Andre's really credible. Anybody know that word?
He's someone reliable.
He's someone reliable. Give me more words if I say he's credible. Absolutely.
Trusting.
He's trustworthy.
Qualified.
Qualified. He's responsible. Andre's credible. When I say that somebody's incredible, I mean that nothing about their responsibility, their trustworthiness, nothing about them is up for debate. They're incredible. This person, and so you think about it, we don't use the word like, oh man, I saw a movie, it was incredible. But that's really what the word is. I have so much credibility that I've built up in 60 seconds that judge is going to go, that was kind of incredible. See that person, that kid drew that? That was crazy. That was incredible, right? That's your job by the end of this. I came at you, I got your attention. I told you there was a problem and I said what the pain was. I gave you a solution and I told you how I was going to solve it. And I told you why me and nobody else was qualified to be doing this. Now I should take that back a little bit. Other people will be qualified, but here's why I'm qualified to be doing this. It doesn't matter about anybody else. All right? I'm going to stop because I'm doing too much talking. Questions, comments, concerns, we can watch a video regarding some really good pitches from Shark Tank and others that we have that we can queue up. I can queue it up, yeah. But questions on this. Questions specific to your business. Questions specific to what are the expectations for you on Monday. Yeah.
Does this have to be a business that we actually plan on executing, or can it be something just for the sake of the pitch?
Totally for the sake of the pitch. And so, yeah, I had mentioned that earlier, and I appreciate you bringing that up again. And what I had said was around feasibility, but I don't think I made it clear. We're going to talk a lot about like what feasible businesses are, but for right now, have a field day. Have at it. My gut would tell me, if you think it's too crazy, then they're probably going to think it's too crazy. So I would try to stay like within the ionosphere, the stratosphere, like somewhere close to Earth, right? Because remember, you're still going to have to become incredible. You're still going to have to build your credibility. You're going to have to be somewhat qualified to do this. But yes, make up a business that you think you'd be really qualified to do. It's a pitch competition. It's a pitch competition. We'll get to your business, what your idea is. More questions?
When will this thing
take place? So on Monday, anybody who comes in on Monday ready to pitch, we're going to pitch, and the class is going to vote. We're going to have one vote. You're all going to have one vote. We're going to send off the person who we think is most qualified to represent us. So that's Monday. So Monday, 10 o'clock, be prepared with a 60-second pitch. The only thing that Jody and I will not send you off with, there's one thing you got to do for us. It's got to be less than 60 seconds. It's got to be 60 seconds or less. Time is something that we can control. You're going to hear that a lot from us in this class. We can control time. So make it under 60 seconds, okay? Yeah, you want to do that thing? Yeah, it's great. Oh, you got it on your phone?
Yeah, if it works, it'd be great.
Other questions? I can multitask.
So start thinking about your hook. Start thinking about what is the problem that you want to solve. That solution. Why you. And then any background information. Right? Are you using acronyms? The Met is so great with acronyms, right? Visitors come in and you say, oh yeah, my LTI is blah, blah, blah. They're still at, what's an LTI? So they don't even hear the rest of what you said. So the things that you need to explain before you go further into it. We've heard some great elevator pitches. Brandon's going to cue one up now. One of the students that won at the Nifty competition a couple years ago fixed cell phone screens. I thought it was just brilliant. He got up on stage, and it's a true fact. Do you know that there's more cell phones being made every day than babies being born? Big need out there, right? Cell phones crack. People are going to break their cell phones. There's a lot of them. So it kind of set himself up to do the rest of his plan. You always want to thank people when you're done, right? So we're talking about the very end now, not so much your pitch. And I just want to be mindful that your audience is looking at you all the time with that fidgeting and that stage presence. But right now, just that elevator pitch is more about how you're going to present it. We'll get to that stage presence that Brandon talked a lot about today because the question came up. Any other background information? Are you going to use vocabulary they might not know? Is there some backdrop story that you need to set before you go into it? Because that 60 seconds, if you can grab them in 60 seconds, you've got them. Because your pitch is 8 minutes once you're done. Layla, have you thought about it?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
For my pitch?
Yeah, how are you going to get us a hook?
I was thinking about finding statistics.
Some kind of statistic to go with. What's your business?
I want to create a skincare/cosmetic line where with an internet like a source where people can take a survey basically and talk about what kind of skin they have, their skin type, the skin tone, so that it's adjusted towards them.
Okay.
And make it cheaper than most competitors. Yeah, but I have to research and stuff before I can really actually have a pitch.
So put some kind of statistic around that?
Mm-hmm.
Who else? I just do it like that. But I don't see it. Yeah.
I was going to do either, I was going to look back up there, or statistic, or I had something else. I'm drawing a blank here. Or background story.
Or a background story?
Yeah.
Okay. Right? You can tell a really sad story about missing out on a job interview or something. Liam?
I don't know the specific numbers yet, but a statistic based on the fact that people are losing a lot of money on reverse mortgages.
Okay. So when you do a statistic, think about how you want to present that, right? Are you just going to tell them the statistic? Are you going to say, did you know, and give them the statistic? Are you going to ask? Are you going to play it into something else? Yeah?
I think so, yeah. So is this coffee cup?
Yeah.
This is a fast pitch. It's 2 minutes, so it's double the amount of time that you have. And he speaks fast, so pay attention.
So think of the things we talked about today. Think about the things that might work for you, and maybe look at some of those things that might not work for you, and then we'll talk about it.
My name is Josh Light, and I'm the CEO of CupAd, and we believe that we have the most effective form of advertising available in the market today. Our advertisements are exposed to customers for 2,220 seconds on average. Now, what kind of advertising has that kind of exposure time? Ladies and gentlemen, we advertise on coffee cups. That's right, we put your brand in their hand. So how does Coffee Cup advertising work? Well, we got an advertiser. They pay us money. We produce paper coffee cups with their advertisement or brand on it. Then we give these coffee cups to coffee stands for free. Now, why does someone want to advertise on a coffee cup? Because it takes an individual 37 minutes to drink a cup of coffee on average. That person's going to have to look at the cup, drink, look at the cup, drink 20 times before it's fully consumed. And that person's going to move around like a mobile billboard, exposing that brand to at least 6 different individuals before that cup is drank. What's in it for Cup Ad? We make 13 cents of profit on every single cup that we distribute. And what's in it for the coffee stands? Well, when most people think about coffee stands, they think about Starbucks. But what about the 25,000 coffee stands in this nation that have plain white cups like this? They don't have the economies to scale to put their own brand on the cup. So we give them free cups. They save $15,000 a year by not buying cups. They like these savings so much, ladies and gentlemen, that approximately 80% of the stands that we've contacted have signed exclusivity agreements to distribute our cups. What kind of momentum have we started for this company? The last month alone, we got 58 coffee stands in California to sign exclusivity agreements with us to distribute our cups. If we continue to get 58 coffee stands every single month, for the next 12 months, we will have 700 coffee stands at the end of the year. With 700 coffee stands, we can move 8 million cups a month. And at 13-cent profit, 8 million cups a month, we're making over $1 million of profit every single month. And we've already started this, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, our first customer, Overstock.com, will see their cups hit the California market in 21 days. Thank you very much.
Did that seem like 2 minutes?
That was
Longer or shorter?
Shorter.
Think you had a lot of time to write a shorter letter?
Yeah.
A lot of what? What did you hear a lot about?
advertising.
Heard a lot about cups, I heard a lot of numbers, right? Yep.
Yeah, what stood out to you? From all the things we've talked about today, all the way from presentation, all the way to the
Stage
actual
presence,
construction
what
of
he
the
said.
pitch.
Yeah.
What stands out?
He was very strong about what he said and when he said it.
How do you mean? So when you say that, I like what you're saying, but he was strong about what he meant, what he said.
So-
Give me an example.
Pretty much like when he was like, our cups, like he knew that his cups were like the best. He like, even, you know how like people, I mean, he did it like a bunch of times. He had like the cup or whatever. He went like this. He had that. He knew his mentality and knew what he was going to say.
Okay, so we saw his confidence come through in the way he was using his hands, the way he was enunciating and gesticulating. So enunciating and then using his hands, right? So body language, right? What else? So we had some body language confidence. What's that? Good use of stats, right? So let me ask you this. Who here can remember any of the stats?
It was like 37 times, 37 minutes before, or 47 minutes before a cup of coffee is gone.
All right, so he got you with 37. I think it was 37, and you only heard this once. He threw a lot of numbers at you, right? So at the end, you might not actually remember all those numbers, but let's just take that strategy for a second, which is when he gave you those numbers, did it seem like he knew what he was talking about?
Yeah.
Did it seem like it built credibility for him?
Yeah.
Right. So whether or not I can remember his numbers, now there could be something to be said if you throw too many numbers, like, oh, now I'm confused. But it didn't confuse me. And you remember 37 minutes. That's a big number. That was probably the most important number. So you're right. He used a lot of numbers. And there was some good stats. Any other stats in there? So 37 minutes. What was the last stat he talked about?
He gave out 8 million cups on a 13-cent profit. It would be over $1 million.
8 million cups, 13
13
cent
cents.
profit, $1 million in net profit a month. If I'm an investor, net profit means what we take home at the end of the month after I've paid all my bills. If I'm an investor and I hear someone telling me $1 million in net profit a month, you know what I think?
Yes.
BS. By the way, I want to say this. He really put his numbers up there well, but we got to be careful because I mean that seriously. A lot of times people want to make this sound as good as possible. So we're making $1 million in net profit a month in my first year of business. I know some people who have run some successful companies. There's some pretty smart entrepreneurs. They weren't making $1 million in net profit in their first month, but guess what? I bought it. I'm in. I believe it. He said it with confidence. I'm in. Bring me in. Sign me up, right? So we're going to have to dig into those numbers, but at the end of the day, that's a really great number, and he had the math to back it up. He didn't just say, And by my calculations, I think we're going to get $8 million or $1 million a month. He gave you the 13 cent. He told you the 8 million. He really brought you along with his thinking, which I thought was great. What else?
He said, I believe it was 58 coffee stands he gets a month. So
Yep.
by the end of the year, he would have 700 coffee stands throughout.
700 stands. So, I mean, really specific numbers on what the trajectory of his business is. So let's get off the numbers for a second, because I think he proved himself really knowing the numbers. What else?
The inflection in his voice really kept the audience's attention on him. So when I say inflection, I mean how it altered from talking like this to talking like this and then going right back up. Yeah.
Great. This is a good moment to have this quick conversation, which is, if I say something like this and I bring my voice up, if I bring my voice up, or if I bring my voice up, or if I bring my voice down, or if I just stay flat, if I bring my voice up, what's that sound like?
Point.
Does it?
Sometimes. Or a question.
It sounds like a question. When I bring my inflection up, it sounds like a question. When I bring it down, it sounds like a what? A statement. It's really funny. And then I learned this from that lady that did this public speaking thing. And then you can also just be flat. If you are always bringing your voice up at the end of everything that you say, everybody's going to think you always have a question. Do you always have a question? Should I believe anything this person says? Or do they know what they're talking about? Because I know what I'm talking about. So you're absolutely right. This inflection, you go down, it's a statement. You stay flat, you're boring. And you go up, it's a question. Sometimes you want to be boring, as in you want to be even. You want to just make sure that you're getting the information. Sometimes you want to make a statement and go down, and you want to be forceful. It comes in with that hand, or you're saying, okay, this is it. And sometimes you want to bring your voice up. So that's a great point. And so he did a nice job with inflection. A lot of this comes naturally, but a lot, when you're in a 2-minute, 120-second competition, it's pretty measured, it's pretty rehearsed. What else? Did he seem natural? Chris says not really. What wasn't natural? A little louder for me. A little louder than that.
His speed wasn't natural.
His speed wasn't natural. Yeah, his speed wasn't natural.
Kind of stuttered a little bit too. A little bit, sometimes.
He stuttered. Yeah, he was trying to. I mean, he was going so fast that he knew what he wanted to say, but his mouth couldn't process his brain fast enough. At the end of the day, I don't think it really hurt, but it made for some moments where it was like, okay, this is not totally off the cuff, and maybe I don't want it to be off the cuff, right? I went to a reading at Brown last night. I didn't know I was going to a reading. I thought I was going to a talk. I don't do readings. Like, I wanted to go so bad. Like, read from his paper for an hour and 20 minutes. Got to the point, but he was an author, so he was like reading and he was doing it with his voice and stuff. He was trying to make it, but there got to a point, and I swear to you, he flipped the page and he was like, oh, okay. Okay, that page is gone, so we'll just move on. Not like, oh, let me just tell you about what was on that page. Like, no, if it's not on the page, we're just going to move on. I can't tell you how much that hurts, right? Like, we got to be able to think on our feet. So while we are memorized in practice, if we stutter, pick it back up. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't remember what I was going to say. No, we just go with it, right? What else? So, fast, knew his numbers, really enthusiastic and really punctuating, uses inflection well, gave me some really great net profit numbers. What else?
He brought up his product in comparison.
He brought up his product in comparison. He had his product, right? He picked up his product. Wow, okay, there's a product. What's the big company he contracted with?
Overstock.com.
Overstock.com. You can lend credibility to you. You see these shoes right here? Is this going to have it? So these shoes were made by a student 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago at this point, right? Yeah, crazy. 2 years ago. Now, this is some of the stuff that happens in the E-Center I think is pretty cool. We ordered her 20 pairs of blank white Converses. She made these all as gifts. She made one for Carolyn Rafaelian, the head of Alex and Ani. So this woman runs $1 billion design fashion company, essentially, and she made her shoes. She made a pair of shoes for the governor. She made a pair of shoes for Ty Law, who's a former Patriots player who now runs Launch Trampoline Parks. So she had so she made, in one order, she didn't really do anything to get the order. We gave her the order. She was at the right place, right time, and had the right skills, so she did do that, don't get me wrong. But she didn't have to work for all these individuals. It just so happened to be a big event. On her slide at Nifty, I've made shoes for Alex and Ani, true. I've made shoes for the governor, true. I've made shoes for Ty Law, former NFL player, Launch Trampoline Parks, true. All on that. Someone looks at it and goes, wow, pretty good partners here, right? So you want to use your partners. You want to say Overstock.com because everybody knows Overstock. That's a big company. So that's a technique, okay? That's a good technique.
Thank you.
If you are contracting with other brands, if you have other customers who are big and can lend you credibility, then use it. That brings me to another thing around stats and figures and statistics. 99 out of 100 people love Oreos. According to who? Nabisco? According to, where's your stat coming from, right? So you might not have to tell me where your stat came from in your pitch, but when you get asked a question, excuse me, where did you get that statistic? You better know. And you better make sure that your source is credible, right? So that's another thing around credibility. If you're going to say numbers, you got to know who gave you that stat, all right? Anything else with this guy? Go on.
I'm going to say one thing about this guy because it came up. Confidence? What?
Confidence sells.
Confidence sells. He was confident. We thought he knew his numbers. He talked about a company he contracted with. He had a product to show us. All those things can portray confidence. So confidence sells. When we get to your homework, this is why I wrote this down. I think this is where we're going, Brandon, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly where we're going.
So your homework is to pick, who here has ever watched a TED Talk? Heard of TED Talks? Great, hands are going up. Awesome, everybody. Pick 2 TED Talks or pick someone that you like that's given a speech. I always go to Dennis Lidke on YouTube, Doc, that's the co-founder of the school, co-director of the school. Watch 2 TED Talks or 2 people speaking. Coffee cup boy, that's what we call him. With the voice, and then watch the same person and shut the volume off. And that will give you a lot of cues on how to command the stage, what to do with your hands, how not to walk really fast across the stage, and pace yourself to make it look like it's very intentional, all those things. So you watch it with volume and without. I got a big speech I have to give for 10 minutes next week in San Francisco. This is what I'll be doing this weekend. It's how I prepare when I have to present. Listen with the voice and then watch really great speakers without a voice. And that will show you just as much as what we talked about today. So I go to Marlon Carey. He is, he's spoken word, won a lot of contests. He actually is from Rhode Island. He lives in Cambridge now. He does a piece on time. He does a piece on time. His stage name is Infinity. And one that I really like to watch, he has a Rubik's Cube, so I thought of the origami, right? And maybe it's anything that someone else is doing. So he says, time, what is time? I mean, is it just how fast it takes to do a Rubik's Cube? And then he keeps talking about time, but he's doing the Rubik's Cube. And it's not too distracting, because what he's saying is very engaging. He's got inflection in his voice. Sometimes he's asking questions, sometimes he's not. He's really telling you what time is, right? But he's timed his pitch, this presentation, to the point where when he's done and says, or is it just doing a Rubik's Cube? And that's right when he gets done. and every side is the same colors. So you might do a piece of origami while you're doing your whole presentation, who knows, right? But there's just really cool, great techniques out there on how people engage and get people's attention, which is what that 60 seconds for you guys is all about. All right, so if you want, you can look at him, but your homework is to pick at least two people speaking. You can find them everywhere on YouTube, Google, TED Talks. Watch it with volume and without, and then talk to us a little bit more about this quote. An experience you've had where you've taken time, where you haven't, whatever that might mean for you. All right? That's what I got.
That's what I got. Oh, Monday,
Be ready.
60 seconds. Be ready. If you raised your hand, that's all but 2, then you're expected. And for those who didn't raise their hands,
We'd love to do.
we'll still hear from you anyhow. But you just don't get to win $250. That's no good. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
We're here afterwards if you need us.